Hi boys and girls, today we're going to talk about multiplication of fractions and mixed numbers. So if you could open up the bottom left flap that says multiply on it, open it up, you're going to follow along the steps with me and write down the examples with me as well. Now before we begin our video, what we have in math is a couple of key words to remember. When I see a multiplication symbol, sometimes our book is going to use the word of instead of multiplying. So if I had, for example, 1/2 of 3/8, that just means I'm going to multiply 1/2 times 3/8. So of is just another word for multiplying a lot in math. So now that we know that, let's get started in talking about our steps to multiplying mixed numbers. Again, you should have that bottom left flap opened and going along with the steps with me. So when I'm multiplying mixed numbers, the first step is going to be very different from when I'm adding and subtracting fractions. You're going to notice that the two things are very different. So what I do first is I change any mixed numbers to improper fractions. I do not want to have any whole numbers in this. I need everything to be an improper fraction. So we're going to change mixed numbers to improper fractions. Now, this is also where it's very different from adding and subtracting. When you multiply, you do not have a common denominator. I repeat, no common denominators in multiplying. What you do is after they're fractions or improper fractions, I'm going to multiply together the numerators, that's the top number. Then I'm going to multiply together the denominators, that's the bottom number. That's all that I do. Those are my two steps. I multiply together the top numbers and the bottom numbers, the numerators and denominators. Then if I have any mixed number or any improper fractions, I'm going to change my answer back to a mixed number and simplify if possible, just like we've been knowing to do. So let's do a quick example. So if I have 1/2 times 4/8, remember I could also say 1/2 of 4/8. So let's go through our steps. I don't have any mixed numbers, so I don't need to change anything to an improper fraction. So what I do is I'm going to multiply straight across my numerator. So 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 8 is 16. I can't change this back to a mixed number because it's not an improper fraction. However, I can divide top and bottom by 4 because 4 goes into both of them. So I can get 1/4 as my answer. Now, some of you might be remembering a shortcut to this that you learned last year. Before multiplying the fractions, the numerators and denominators, look at the numbers on the diagonal and simplify if possible before multiplying. So let's real quick learn a shortcut. This is going to make our problems easier to solve. If you don't understand this, you don't have to use it, but let's practice this. So if you haven't already written down 1/2 times 4/8, please do so now. If you didn't do the problem with me originally, let's do it together now. Even if you already did the problem, rewrite it again because I'm going to show you the shortcut method. So 1/2 of 4/8. So I'm going to look along my diagonal and I'm going to see if I can simplify anything in my diagonal before I do anything else. So when I look at the 2 and the 4, well, I need to think what's the number that can go into both 2 and 4? Well, I know that 2 can go into both of them. So I'm going to do 2 divided by 2 is 1 and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I'm going to simplify ahead of time. Now I get 1 times 2 is 8, and 1 times 8 is 8. Hopefully I said that right. You should have gotten 2/8 as your answer. From here, it's a little easier to see my simplifying step to get to my answer of 1/4. So again, I can always simplify ahead of time on the diagonals. We're going to work on this a lot in class tomorrow too. Right now, let's try one more before we end our video today. So on your paper and examples, let's write down 3 1/4 times 2 2/3. Remember that of could also be in the middle there to mean to multiply. So step 1 says change your mixed numbers to improper fractions. So I'm going to do the bottom times the side plus the top. So 3 times 4 is 12 plus 1, I'm going to get 13. So I'm going to have 13 over 4 to start. Then I'm going to do 2 times 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So I get 8/3. Ooh, these numbers are not looking that pretty right now to work with. But let's go through it now. I could just do 13 times 8 and 4 times 3. But let's see if I could use my trick from the last one. So I look along my diagonal. Is there a number you can divide both 4 and 8 by? Well, I know 4 can go into both 4 and 8. They're factors of both. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. These numbers look a little bit easier now to multiply by with. When I have 13 times 2, because I'm going to multiply together my numerators, 13 times 2 is 26. A lot easier than 13 times 8. That's why we do our simplifying ahead of time. 1 times 3 is 3. So I made my numbers much easier to work with that shortcut. Now, let's look at our last step. It says change any mixed numbers back, or any improper fractions back to mixed numbers. So I need to take my 26 thirds and change it back to a mixed number by doing some long division. How many times can 3 go into 26? 8 times. How many are left over? 2. So I get an answer of 8 and 2/3 for my final answer. So we are going to practice this in class tomorrow. We've got a couple of fun activities to get us really, really good at this topic. So see you in class.